Welcome guys, stay GigaChat and spam noted. Today in this video, I'm gonna cover Pinnacle Glaivier guide after the balance patch that happened in May in Korea. West does not have this version yet, but I hope it happens soon, either this month or next month. So let's get started. Okay, first of all, you have to know the changes that happened to the Pinnacle Glaivier. The new identity. The blue stance now gets attack speed 15% and damage 25%. Red stance gets 15% of movement speed and 60% of crit damage. The new Pinnacle allows both stances to have all the buff above. So basically both of the blue and red stance will get all the 4 buffs above right here. And the new specialization now increases damage of the red stance skills. So instead, like right now in the West, you get a higher efficiency of the identity buff, right? But that disappeared, and now it increases flat damage of the red stance skill. It does not increases the blue stance skills. Okay, let me go over to the build. There are 3 comprehensive builds in Korea, and they all use Entropy. Nightmare does significantly less damage than Entropy. The first one is Spec Crit. For Engraving, Pinnacle, Grudge, Raid Captain, Ambush Master, Curse Doll at level 3, and Adrenaline level 1 if you have Ancient Accessories. It has 80% crit rate, 127% attack speed and movement speed, including the level 3 Swamp of Yearning. The reason why you run Raid Captain, even though the movement speed is not capped, is because it's better than any other candidate like Keen Blunt, All-Out Attack, and Mass Increase. Keen Blunt is inefficient on all 3 of these builds after the patch because Pinnacle gives you crit damage 60% on all the stances, and the 2-set Entropy gives you 65% crit damage. So that's already too much crit damage. Mass Increase is not recommended because the playstyle of the Pinnacle is now bursting instead of being consistent DPS. So what's happening is that minus 10% attack speed will actually matter a lot when bursting, and it will be hard to land a back attack. And all-out attack only benefits holding skills. In this case, 4-head dragon, red dragon horn, half moon slash, and the second awakening right here. The problem is, if you see the new specialization that I told you already, it increases the damage of the red stance skills. So the proportion of the DPS relies on all 4 of these red skills, which means, in other words, you want to run Engravings that benefits the damage of all 4 of these red skills. So all-out attack, since it only benefits 2 of them out of 4, it doesn't increase the overall DPS that much. By the way, Thrust of Destruction is not a holding skill. This one is a charging skill, so it doesn't get benefited by the all-out attack. Also, Raid Captain has higher potential than any of those 3 engravings because whenever you use a battle item that increases movement speed like Astral Fin, Marching Flag, Swift Robe, then your damage will get increased a lot. And not just that, like you can also get Wind Orb from the drop of Ether from the supporter, or you can also have a movement speed party synergy in your party, like Remaining Energy, War Dancer, or Loyal Companion. The next one is Spec Swift Crit, 1600, 563, and 350. The reason why there's a breakpoint for swiftness right here is because this figure gives 9.5% of movement speed. So what happens is that you get 15% from the identity, the movement speed, and 9.5% from the stat, and 12% from level 3 Swamp of Yearning. And for the rest of the 3.5%, you get it from taking the Feast from the Stronghold. That exactly make it up to 140% cap. For the Engravings, it's same as the Spec Crit. It has 10% lower crit rate compared to Spec Crit, but higher attack speed and movement speed. The next one is Spec Swift Crit with 150 crit. This one runs Adrenaline level 3 over Curse Doll level 3, and for level 1, it runs Ether Predator. It has 73% crit rate and 140% attack speed and movement speed with the Feast. All 3 of these builds do similar DPS, so you can pick whatever you want. But today in this video, I'm going to cover a build that my Glaivier is actually running, and it's none of these 3. It's something that is slightly different from these 3, and that is Spec Swift. And also if you see the level 1 engraving, I'm running Spirit Absorption level 1. Theoretically, Ether Predator level 1 is better than this, but the reason why I'm running Spirit Absorption level 1 over that is because there are 2 reasons. Number 1, I do not want to take the 3.5% of the Feast every time I go into the raid because it's annoying to make this every time. And number 2, I do not like the duration time, the 2-minute duration time of the Ether Predator, because it's like salvation and hallucination. Every time the gate ends, and when you're going to the next gate, there's always like, people who's going to toilet or, buying items from an auction house or organizing their set and stuff. Your buff runs out. I really don't like that. That is the reason I decided to use the Spirit of Jordan level 1, which is more consistent than Ether Predator. So level 1 gives 3% movement speed, attack speed, and rest of the 0.5% I get it from having additional swiftness from here. Alright, before I go into the skills, all the skill tripod and runes that I'm going to talk about on my build right now are all same for all these 3 builds as well. So try to refer to that. Okay, here I go. So the first one is Spiraling Spear. You run this tripod, and for the rune, you run Quick Recharge or Purify rune. This is a new tripod, by the way. If I show you, it's like this. It dashes and it combos into Pierce. And since this is a counter skill, both of the dash part, and the Pierce part is counter. Forehead Dragon, you run 3, 1, 2. The bleed damage from this tripod got removed. For the rune, you run Blue Galewind. For the Thrust of Destruction, you run 3, 2, 1. The Quick Preparation tripod on first line disappeared, and you want to master this one, which reduces the animation. And this also still affects even though your attack speed is capped at 140. For the rune, you want to run the Blue Galewind. Starfall Pounce, 1, 1, 2. You can see that the Quick Preparation from second line disappeared, and you want to run this one, which increases stagger. For the rune, you run Legendary Galewind. Red Dragonhorn, 1, 1, 1. The Quick Preparation on the first tripod disappeared, so you want to run this one, which reduces the animation. It still affects, even though your attack speed is capped at 140. For the rune, Purple Galewind. Half Moon Slash, 1, 3, 1. Or you can go 1, 3, 2. The reason why I'm running the holding tripod is because my attack speed is capped at 140, so even though it's a holding tripod, the animation is not that long, and this one is stronger than the Tornado. For the rune, Purple Galewind. Raging Dragon Slash, 3, 1, 2. For the rune, you want to run Legendary Galewind. Flash Kick, the tripod that increases distance, and the Volt Kick, same as well. Shackling Blue Dragon, 3, 1, 1. This one got some rework. Now it has an inbuilt feature that only gives yourself 20% of crit rate for 6 seconds. And if you run this tripod right here, then it applies Party Synergy. So what this Party Synergy is that 8% damage upon crit. So this does not mean crit damage. It's 8% damage increase when you or your party mate's skill crits. But it does not give you 8% damage if the skill does not crit. That's what it means. And you can see that the Quick Preparation moved to the third tripod right here. For the rune, Bleed Rune. If I try to use the skill, you can see that there's a 20% crit rate increase above the HP for 6 seconds. And if you see below the HP of the mob, there's 16 seconds of damage increase upon crit by 8%. For the Awakening, you run first one, not the second one. Well, theoretically, second one is still stronger than first one, but the reason why you run first one is because the Pinnacle Glaivier is now a bursting playstyle, and you have to squeeze every skills inside the 6 seconds of the 20% crit rate as possible. And Awakening is included there as well. If you run the second one, since this is a holding skill that locks the animation, you cannot land any other skills than this Awakening. But if you run this skill, while it's exploding, you can keep on going using other skills. That's why. You can see that it's using 420 skill points, and I know that West does not have that much skill point. In that case, reduce the skill point from Raging Dragon Slash, since this does the weakest damage, from 12 to 10. Or you can also try to remove the skill point from Flash Kick and Volt Kick as well. Okay, let's go over to the gems. For the gems, you run 6 attack gems. Half Moon Slash, Raging Dragon Slash, Forehead Dragon, Thrust of Destruction, Starfall Pounce, and Red Dragonhorn. For the rest, you run Cooldown Reduction for the 5, and you run it on Red Dragonhorn, Starfall Pounce, Thrust of Destruction. For rest of 2, Raging Dragon Slash, and Half Moon Slash. It is really important to have high level cooldown gem on these 3 red skills, Thrust, Starfall, and Red Dragon. I would recommend you to have at least level 7 cooldown gem. And for the rest of these 2, Half Moon and Raging Dragon, you can take, the less priority. Before I go into the rotation, you have to know the exact crit rate of each skills. So where's the crit rate coming from? 22% from level 3 Entropy, 2.32% from here, 65 crit. Back attack gives you 10%, Adrenaline gives you 15%, level 3, and the 20 comes from the Shackling Blue Dragon. So by adding all of that, it becomes 69.3%, almost 70. And Red Dragonhorn, Starfall Pounds both have that crit rate with the Shackling Blue Dragon. Thrust of Destruction, Forehead, you don't use it with the Shackling Blue Dragon, but still it has 90% crit rate because of the crit tripod on the first line. And the Raging Dragon Slash, you don't use it with the Shackling Blue. It has 75% crit rate because there's a crit rate tripod on third line. Half Moon Slash has 50% crit rate because you don't use it with Shackling Blue Dragon, so that's like 50% crit. And the reason why you don't use this with Shackling Blue Dragon is because you want to use the strongest skill fast as possible right after using the Shackling Blue Dragon. Because in reality, if you try to fit the Half Moon Slash in the Shackling Blue Dragon like this, Shackling Half Moon, and then change to Red Dragonhorn and Starfall Pounds like this, the problem is that the boss is likely to turn, and if you miss the back attack as an Entropy, you know how painful that is. So that is why you want to run the strongest skill as fast as possible and just leave the Half Moon Slash having 50% crit rate rather than having 70%. And by the way, if you look into the tripod that Half Moon Slash has, there is a new tripod that increases crit rate by 60% at level 5. So you can guarantee crit for this skill, but then you have to give up the 96% damage. And when I tried an experiment by comparing these two tripods, the one that increases damage, this one, did way much more damage than this one, even with 50% crit rate. So you have to keep up with this tripod right here. Okay, now the rotation. You just need only 1 gauge to get the full Pinnacle buff when you switch over, because that's how it got changed. So on the red stance, use the Forehead Dragon to get the gauge, Spiraling Spear, so it's now 1, right? Switch and use some level 1 blue skill to get the full Adrenaline stacks, Shackling, and then use the Red Dragonhorn. This is the DPS rotation. Starfall, Thrust, Forehead, and then proc the Spiraling Spear for the quick recharge, switch to Raging Dragon, Half Moon, wait for the Shackling Blue Dragon to come, stack the Adrenaline, Shackling, Raging Dragon Slash, Starfall. You can see that the cooldown is perfect. Forehead, and quick recharge, switch, raising, and the Half Moon, and it's repetitive, so on and so forth. When you want to use the First Awakening, you use it before the Shackling Blue Dragon, like this. So Forehead, get the gauge, switch, and get the Adrenaline stacks, and you use it right now with Shackling, just like that. Then the First Awakening damage will get benefited by the crit rate and also the following skills, the Red Dragonhorn and Starfall Pounds. Well guys, that's all for today. Thanks for watching and hope you guys liked it. If you did, then please hit the subscribe button on YouTube and also follow the Twitch because that will help me a lot. Until the next video, stay Giga Chad guys.